Conrad, so excited to have you physically with me, IRL.
I know.
How are you?
It feels surreal. I'm really good. I mean, being here, being in the sunshine, it's such a nice change from Melbourne energetically. So yeah, very, very happy, very excited.
For all my new listeners, Conrad was with me, I want to say season 1, like early days, and we did a phone call and you helped me answer all of these amazing questions that really helped me with the day-to-day of sobriety. I would love to go back and touch on those things. But first of all, for all of our new viewers, can you give me a quick top-line backstory of your journey?
Yeah, so I guess the important thing to know is that I struggled with cocaine and methamphetamines for over 10 years, right? Also ADHD coupled in with that. And through that journey, I realised that I had been through, severe repressed childhood trauma. So they were all of the things in the pot, and I was very high functioning, doing university, running businesses, the whole gamut of things. But I was really leading a double life and just couldn't get any consistency, right? So I'd have great periods of growth, and then I'd dip, and it was just up and down and up and down. And it got to the point with the methamphetamine use that my mental health just packed out, and the wheel started to fall off, right? So everyone noticed. I ended up in rehab in 2017, I think, and I remember it was a month before Christmas. So I had to do that and then show up for family Christmas, which was pretty daunting.
Prime drinking time, November.
Yeah, it was hard, and prime judgment time as well. So I went through that process. I went through NA, AA, the typical route that we kind of learn in most of the rehabs. And I was so desperate that I just put my head down and I did exactly what I was told. I just dropped the ego. But I had this sneaking suspicion that it wasn't as good as it could be, right? Because I'd been educated and I'd had a lot of exposure to high-level learning and high-level people and entrepreneurs. And I was like, this feels dated. It feels a bit off. I don't know if I agree with all of it, but I'm going to do it because I know that it will help. I spent 3.5 years in those rooms. And then I was like, you know what? I've done the work. I've showed up with integrity. I believe in myself again. I'm back in complete confidence, and there has to be a better way, right? So I went about designing that. I was working in a corporate job. I was very stuck. I'd created a lot of debt in my using, a lot of rubble, I call it, right? And I just didn't feel like there was any way out of that for me. I thought, this is going to take me 15 years. So I was like, I'm going to start a company, and I'm going to help people like me who are busy professionals who are struggling with addiction to regain control of their life and choices. I got a coach and a mentor who was an amazing person who helped me to design Addiction Coaching Australia. And we did that over a year. We sat down for 60 minutes or 90 minutes once a month for 12 months, and we whiteboarded it, we built it, and then I quit my job. I took a redundancy and I said, thank you, I appreciate you. And then I started to shit myself, right? Because I had they paid me enough money to live for 3.5 months. And I'm like, okay, between now and that point, I have to find our first participants. And it has just been an amazing journey since then.
Have you always had that type of brain? It takes a special type of person to be in the traditional modalities and go, this isn't good enough.
Yeah. I think as long as it's really tricky, okay? So the simple version is that I think that you've got to have humility and you've got to try. Particularly if something has worked for others, that's evidence, okay? So I was like, there's got to be something here. If you can drop the ego and really lean in, but then also know that fine line between when it is and isn't for you, that's the trick. And what I did, just to be sure, is that I waited longer than I typically would. Right? I said, I'm going to be really patient about this. So I was like a year and a half in. I'm like, this is not for me. And I stayed for another 2 years. Okay? Because again, I had so much to lose. And I knew that historically, parts of my brain and parts of my subconscious and parts of my thinking want to tell me that everything is shit and my way is better and what do they know and I'm smarter than them. Okay? So I just stayed until I really knew that I wasn't doing that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Oof, this ego, I feel like it still raises its head for me. Do you find a lot of your clients sort of come in with their walls up and I know how to heal myself? Because I noticed it even with a girlfriend. She was talking about, this sounds very trivial, but she was talking about my TikTok name, and it's called Recovering Party Girl. And she said, Jules, you're not recovering anymore. Stop calling yourself that. And of course, I want, what do you know? I've built 50,000. You don't know anything. I didn't say that. But, that's how I felt. I felt this rage in my chest, like I've done the thing. What it did, though, is it planted a seed. And I knew she was right. And I stopped saying that I was recovering. And I now call myself recovered. And the opportunities that have opened ever since I changed my language about myself.
Yes.
But do you find that? Do you find that people come in a bit like, what do you know? Because even one of the questions, can I say, is what are his credentials?
Oh, of course. And I don't really do my socials anymore. And that's one of my boundaries. And just yesterday, someone from the team messaged me and said, hey, somebody's questioning your credentials. And it was hilarious because somebody had actually gone onto my website and copied and pasted it and put it underneath her comment. A lady was like, who are you? What are your credentials? And another member of the public just went and snatched it and put it under there. So I felt like they were going to bat for me.
They got your back.
Yeah, which was nice. Look, I've got 2 answers to that question. I think for me, I always will listen to people that I deeply respect, right? And I find that in the circles that I move in, particularly with people that have got high-level intelligence or high-level skill sets, they will hear feedback from people that they respect. But then you've got to be really careful to close that off below that because sometimes those people just don't know what they're talking about, right? In terms of people that come into my programs, absolutely, right? Especially, look, I'm really lucky again. I work with people that are in a really high level in a one-on-one setting, and then we've got an amazing group program. In the one-on-one thing, I really spend a lot of time with people before I say it's a good fit. And one of the things I look for is that. So if a person is not receptive, then I can't help them. The people that get the best results go, okay, Conrad, I found you. You came into my life for a reason. I've spent a couple of hours with you. I like you. I trust you. I feel safe. People always talk about lived experience. And then what they do, the really smart ones, is they get in right behind me and we walk up the hill together. And they just trust that every step I take them on is a learned and smart and strategic step. So people who can't change, don't want to change, and are deeply attached to their way often can't trust, right? And that is a safety wound. And I can help them with that, but it's easier for me to help people who are a little bit more open and a little bit more receptive. So the short answer is I see it all of the time, right?
We do have so many questions. Most of them are about how to support a loved one in addiction. But I really want to go back. Something that sticks out from your first episode is I remember asking you, Conrad, how do people go sober and how do they look at their life and go, from now on, I'm never drinking again? And you were like, Jules, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's just do 90 days. Could you repeat? Yeah. I just loved that point of discussion.
Yeah, it's so smart because I think forever is too long. And when you've got to remember, you're really battling a lot of things at the start. You're battling your subconscious, you're battling perception, you're battling social pressure, and you're also not 100% sure whether this is for you. Okay, I always say, you're not 10 out of 10, but if you're an 8, I can help, okay? 90 days is critical because this is the actual biochemistry of addiction, right? So we have a dopamine threshold, right? So a person who doesn't abuse drugs and alcohol, their dopamine threshold is like here, okay? And they go out into the Gold Coast and they see the sun and they see people riding on e-bikes and cute dogs.
The fucking e-bikes.
Right? And they hit that threshold. It makes them happy. At least it's making me happy. When you're abusing drugs and alcohol, your dopamine threshold's up here, okay? And you can't hit it. That's why everything feels flat, everything feels numb. You're not making good decisions there. That's the first thing to remember, okay? You can't future plan in that state. You can't future focus. That's why they're like, you've just got to take one step at a time. In 90 days, your threshold or your dopamine, your delta phos-B will decrease, right? And get back to that of a normal, healthy person. Then your perspective changes. Everything feels bright. Everything feels back to normal. Relationships feel connected. Your physical body feels well, right? Your happiness is back. Your energy is back. Do you think it would be better to make a decision about your future at that point or on day one? Right? Also, forever is a lot of pressure. So in our group coaching program, the Circuit Breaker, we're like, this is a 12-month journey, okay? But come in for 90 days and just do the work. And if you don't get the result at the end of that period, you can leave and we'll part as friends. Most people come through, they hit the 90 days and they're like, oh, wow, the doors open up. And then we get to work on building what we call a brilliant drug-free life, okay? So I think that that's the sweet spot because your body and your brain are ready for future planning after that point.
I always recoil every time someone says, I'm just going to do a month and see how I feel. Because that was the worst I felt. I felt worse after 4 weeks of sobriety than I did on day one almost. I had the head fog. I didn't realise I had a problem with alcohol until I tried to get sober. The head fog, it feels like there's a sheet between you and reality. Did you feel that? It felt like I was like in slowed down reality, the head fog. The insomnia, the bed sweats. Yeah, so I don't recommend that either. But let's listen to the professional.
Well, I mean, that's perfect. And the way that I describe it is an oil spill. Okay? So imagine like you're like the cutest, fairiest little penguin or seal or otter, right? And you're swimming through the ocean and you just go right into the middle of an oil spill, right? Or worse, you cause it, which is what we do, okay? That oil kills your environment. You can't survive in it. The people around you can't survive in it. It takes a long time to clear up, right? And once it clears, we have to get free of the oil spill, right? We have to come out of the fog. And that's the part that people can't land. Because they're like, I'm ready, I'm motivated, and everyone's looking for like a magic pill or a quick fix. And there are so many things that we can do to optimize recovery, but the lever that you cannot change is time, okay? And it takes a long time to do an environmental cleanup. It takes a long time to walk through a storm, through a fog. Whatever analogy you want to use, you have to understand that there is a path ahead of you. So I think it's important to give something to people that they can chew.
Yeah, 90 days.
Yeah.
That's all we have to do, 90 days.
Yeah.
I can do that. Well, we've got about 10 questions that we need to get through.
Let's do
so
it.
I'm going to just start reading off my screen. All right. Supporting a loved one in addiction. This was one of the main topics that kept coming through.
Yeah.
First question, what can people who are related to the addict do to help them come out of addiction? I've heard connection is key, but what is your perspective?
Yeah, connection is important. I think progressive boundaries, right? And also anchoring, which we talked about on this first session, which I'll cover. So when I talk about progressive boundaries, they have to realize that there is a consequence And I'm not saying create a hard one, cutting people off, never talking to them again, but just understanding that. So what typically happens is that people move away with their drug use and relatives move with them. They chase them. What I know is that they're looking for peace. They're looking for isolation. They're looking to prove that narrative that they're running right? What we need to do is, as they go this way, we need to pull back, right? And say, cool, if you're going to do that, I totally accept it. This is your journey, but this is my new boundary, okay? So if you're going to use drugs continually, I understand it, but not in my house, right? But you're so welcome to come for dinner if you're not using. We'd love to have you, okay? And just making sure that as they lean further in, you actually tighten and secure your boundaries in a progressive way. That has to be coupled with anchoring. And when I say anchoring, we want to make sure that anytime we get them in a way where, in a place where they're actually happy and connected and ready to talk, we're reminding them about the good times, right? Connecting them to pictures, showing them things. Hey, remember when we did that? That was awesome, okay? Because they're desperate to reconnect, but they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told how to do it. And there's often resentment and underlying issues with all of the people involved, right? I hate to say this, but in a lot of the work I do, the person who's taking the drugs or drinking too much is the sensitive one. And the other people in the dynamic are the abrasive ones, right? The people who are confrontational, who are loud and abrasive and aggressive, right? Men, women, and others. So everyone's got their work to do. And I think the boundaries, the anchoring back, and also making sure that you're doing everything that you can to understand your part in it in terms of the way that, you know, you may have contributed to the decision for them to, you know, act like that.
Isn't it so interesting? Even as you're saying that, you know, I'm 2.5, almost 3 years into sobriety.
Amazing.
And I noticed that probably all of my friends, every time we reminisce about the good times, it's only when I've been really fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's because maybe we haven't had any more good memories together, but I got to say, those days, my mental health rapidly declines.
Yeah.
Every time they link, you know, my most fun, confident self is when I was gacked out of my brain.
Yeah.
I've only just made that connection now.
Yeah.
I got to start making new memories.
100%, right? And reconnecting to the first happy ones is really important, right? So we've all heard people talk about the inner child, yeah? And like if you do a Zoom call with me, you'll see in my background, it's just like filled with things that I loved, like basketball, Lego, all of my sporting trophies. So every time I see that stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that's who I was then. And what we do is we tend to follow paths and we lose ourselves, right? And I'm just seeing that, particularly in men these days, it's incredible how much people, they're really being very sheep-like in their behaviour and following the pack more than they ever have. And it's really alarming because the pack just sits there and gambles and does coke and wastes money on OnlyFans and, you know, like the behaviour is really bad.
Agreed. I made a video on this on TikTok and I was going to take it down because of how much backlash I was getting. But I now have to give my male guests a heads up that when their episode drops, they will get slaughtered in the comments.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're saying. Even if they're saying, I had a rough childhood, now I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's just other men who are determined to drag them down.
Yeah.
If someone is in the very early stages of sobriety and they perhaps don't have that backbone or the confidence yet, do you tell them to stay off socials? Do you have any tips or tricks?
I think social media it's great, but I think for anybody in an emotionally vulnerable state, it is the worst thing that you could possibly be doing. Okay, and we know like young people are killing themselves because of getting bullied on social media or perception or seeing things. I don't measure up. I don't look like that. It's like it's a horrible mirror to be holding up to yourself every single day. Right? So putting the phone down is important. will often send in welcome packs when I work with people. I'll send them an analog alarm clock sometimes, right? So they can use that, get the phone out of the room. Send them a phone vault, right? Phone-free time with their partners. It's amazing. I was talking to someone literally yesterday. He's like, oh, yeah, like hanging out with my wife. We both put our phones down. It's really good. I was like,
The connection, yeah.
So, yeah, I think social media is... there's so many people on there who have got so much to say with so little brains.
Oh, amen. Or who have never walked our shoes and never will.
No.
We'll get to the next question. You've kind of just answered the boundaries ones. Are there ways for friends and family to stay connected without enabling the addiction?
Yeah, absolutely. So creating things to do that are not connected to the addiction in any way, shape or form, right? So I'm not going to come to that party with you. I'm not going to go to that event with you. I'm not going to go to that thing with those people with you. But what I am prepared to do is this, and this, right? And those things, again, need to be anchored in things that you know that they love, right? And what they will do is that they will say, nah, not available, not interested, because all they want to do is go and surround themselves with drugs and alcohol and be in environments where they can justify their use. Okay? It's the biggest cloak. Oh, I'm going to this thing. It's part of the thing. It's part of the culture is the one I hear all of the time. And what we've just been duped, right? Because the alcohol companies and the drug people and everybody else, the gambling marketers, have just gone and attached themselves to all of the events that people do and embedded in it, right? Like, what is horse racing
Oh, gosh.
got to do with alcohol? Everything in 2025 and probably right back until the 70s, but it's literally, well, I don't love the sport, but it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've just like attached themselves to everything. So the classic one that I hear is that, like the blokes camping.
Blokes camping?
Yeah. So instead of just going camping, right? A beautiful, natural, happy,
I would think it was
joyous
wholesome.
place. They're going there. They're using methamphetamines. They're using cocaine. They're sitting around a fire. They're drinking 3 slabs of beer, and they're just on sports bet, like fucking zombies. In a national park, next to a waterfall, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So even those things are getting corrupted with all of the justifications to use, drink, and gamble. So you have to get them away from those, and nature's a good one, as long as it doesn't end up like that.
I found that even being invited to hens parties and boat parties are my no-nos. No, I cannot.
Nothing you can get, if you can't get off it,
Fuck
don't go.
Nah,
right?
but, I was always scared that I would lose my dearest friends because I can't rack up on a boat with the strippers and whatever we were doing. That's no word of a lie. But I would go, oh, babe, I won't be coming to the second part of the hens party, but I would love to come earlier and help you set up.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I've actually found that doing that makes me look and feel like a better friend, being with them whilst they're still sober.
You've absolutely nailed it, because what I teach people is that you've got to reconnect to the true essence of the event, right? So typically like a person that loves football, if they're deeply passionate about it, but nowadays they just go and sink piss. Okay, so like getting back to the stats, getting back to the players, getting back to the journey, getting back to the actual essence of the team. In your instance, it's so perfect because you're saying to that person, you're my friend, you're getting married, I want to show up for you in the best way possible because I love you. So I'm going to come and decrease load and help and be present and do whatever I can to celebrate you. But that just doesn't include me doing drugs on a boat, because that's got nothing to do with it. Right? And if you set those boundaries, so again, if you're working with me, I'm going to tell you to do all of the things that you just described. And if those people are not receptive to that, or they judge you, or they give you a hard time, you need better friends. And they're available and they're out there, right? But that period of transition where you're going to go from your friends to realizing they're not your friends, there's going to be isolation. And that's the hardest part for people to navigate through.
Well, this wasn't a question, but now that we're on the topic, how do we handle a conversation? I say to you, Conrad, I'm not drinking this month, actually, or I'm not drinking for these 3 months, right? Let's do the 3-month thing. And you go, but it's Amy's wedding. It's Sophie's hens. What do you mean you're not drinking?
Yeah.
What could I say? You know, I'm in the early stages of sobriety, so I don't go, fuck off. What could I say?
It's such a good question, and there's two camps on this. And the first one I don't agree with, which is I don't owe you an explanation.
Oof,
right? Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I'm such a pushover.
Me neither, right? And that's abrasive. It's not going to create connection, but it is something that you would hear and see a lot of on the internet. And I like, in that context, it doesn't serve me, and I'm a better friend without it, right? So again, getting back to the reason we're all there, and I'll tell you this 1,000 times out of 1,000, the person that pushes you to drink is the person that needs security in their own drinking, okay? So if you're not drinking, that shines a light on them and how shit-faced they're going to get. They need allies in that. And once you stop, again, they feel like, oh my gosh, right? It puts the spotlight back on them. So we've heard the adage, misery loves company. Yeah. So people can't argue in 2025 with health, right? It's affecting my mental health. And I find I'm a better friend without it, right?
Done. What a great response.
It's a really good response. And there's a trick, okay? And will play into the ego of the type of person that will question you, okay? So you say that, you know what? I've just been really struggling with my mental health. I'm not drinking, and I've actually found that I'm a better friend without it. How's your boyfriend, right? Or how's your kids? Or so straight away after you answer that question, directly ask them a question about themselves, and that person will be off to the races. They'll be like, okay? So you're distracting them away from the secondary probe, which is going to be the harsher one. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. That's so powerful. I've never thought of that.
People love talking about themselves.
That's what I was about to say. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get back to the questions. I knew this would happen with you, Conrad. I knew that we could just talk and talk with my own questions. All right, so back to supporting a loved one in addiction. What mental or emotional practices do you recommend for someone supporting an addict?
Who asked that? That's an
Just
amazing
IG.
question. So good. So nervous system is the critical part here, okay? So what you have to understand is that if someone you love is doing something that harms themselves, you are going to be incredibly stressed by that. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be upset. You're going to be wondering, is it my fault? Is it something that I did? Okay? So what I would be encouraging those people to do is do whatever they can. And I say this to every mum, every father, every wife, husband of the people that I work with, is that you've got to ramp up your self-care. You've got to put yourself first. And you know what? They're with me now, so you don't have to worry about it for the next 12 months. And what that does is it unburdens them, okay? So whatever it is for you, exercise, meditation, socialization with friends. So recently, like sometimes people have to go to rehab. So one of my clients, he started with us and we realized that he really needed that. So he went and I talked to his mum and I'm like, what have you been doing? And she's like, oh, thanks for asking, right? I've gone back to my part-time job. I've been reading a lot. I've been catching up with my friends. I went and had a massage. I went and got my hair done, okay? So anything that you can do to calm your nervous system, create wellness, and then if you want to do the deep dive, you need to go and do your own work, okay? Because I'm over here working with that person, making sure that their side of the street is crystal clear, sparkly clean. And they're going to come back and they're going to apologize for all of the shit that they've done. So if you've got any shit and you've got any skeletons and you've been attacking and you've been blaming and really, leaning in, you need to go and do your own work on that. Okay? And then you can reconvene. You've all done your work. You've all calmed your nervous system down. You're not triggering each other. And you've got a much better chance of heading off successfully into the future. Right? So well-being, education, and understanding that there is nothing, this is very important, you can influence but you cannot control. Okay? And that's what a lot of people can't deal with. Why can't I fix this? You can contribute to fixing it, and when the person's ready, they'll do their work and that'll be it, right? So drop your control, work on yourself, work on your side of the street, work on your well-being.
I think we also internalize whatever they're doing so much as well. Like even when my partner relapsed with alcohol and recently nicotine, which I haven't spoken about.
Yeah.
And straight away, it doesn't matter how much freaking healing I've done or how many, straight away I said, why can't you just choose our relationship?
Yeah.
For him, he was like, I just wanted to have a durry on set.
Yeah.
But I was like, why can't you choose us? Yeah. And then it sort of turns into this huge argument about our whole, it becomes less about him and more about our whole world.
So taking it personally, everybody does it, right? So I'm working with a client at the moment, mindful of his privacy, but, he's just been doing his absolute best to work through this and not being completely transparent with the core issue. So I'm gambling, okay, but he's taking a lot of drugs. And his wife has found out about this, and her first question was, did everybody else know, right? Because if that's true, then he's been hiding things just from her, right? Which she would take very, very personally. But it turns out that he's been hiding it from everyone, and she's like, oh, right? And you can feel that relief. She's very angry, but she's taking it less personally. So that's a really good piece of guidance. It's got more to do with them than it has with you, and you can't control it.
This is going to expose myself so much, but I feel like I really didn't handle that situation. I flew off the handle, right?
Yeah.
I kind of was like, is this the person you want? Like I was very judgmental.
Yeah.
I was very, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
We're all good now, everyone. He's doing all the things to get his health back on track, and we're going to gym and everything. But, he did just hide it from me. And it's made me wonder what type of person I am to him in our relationship when it comes to his addictions. Am I a bit of a hard ass? Am I someone who feels completely unapproachable? How can I move through our relationship? Like, how can I be more accepting and open, but I don't want him to go back to his addictions? Does that make sense?
I reckon you've taken the great approach, and not to get into too much coaching, but I talk about minimum standards, okay? And you're holding yours. And for you to be in your power, for you to be in your confidence, for you to be the type of woman that you want to be in your life, it's all standards. What will I and what will I not accept in my life? And his behavior or anyone else's behavior who's leaning into addiction, it's never going to meet those standards, right? So the work for him is to raise his and for you to hold yours with empathy. I'm not shifting and you're welcome, but you've got some work to do, because as soon as you lower yours, you're not being true to yourself, right? So it's about, when people say meeting each other, right? I think when standards and values meet, that's real alignment, right? And you should be able to communicate your standards and your values without forcing your will and forcing your standards on people, okay? So this is me, this is how I operate, and I'm holding true to that. You're welcome, but if you detract from it and if you constantly try and pull me down, there's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what? The thing that high standards are hard to meet, right? So like insecurity is the thing that needs work there.
Yeah.
So if you want to help him, then help him with that,
Yeah.
right? Which is safety and love and nurture and confidence, right? So it's just my take on it.
Thank you for that little coaching session. Make sure you bill me afterwards. Okay, this is the final question for the supporting a loved one in addiction. What are some common mistakes families make when trying to help someone with addiction? We've kind of covered it, but is there any like one-liner that you want to add? Yeah,
too many cooks in the kitchen is a terrible idea, right? So again, just using an example of a guy I'm actually working with, his behaviour was pretty abhorrent, right? Had been to rehab, jumped out of there, went straight to half an ounce of cocaine like the day after. Family are losing their mind. And he's gotten to the point where people have gone, hey, mate, like you got to pull your head in. And he's like, yeah, I know. He's found me. And this is the critical piece, right? Identity and behavioural change are 100% possible with the right pathway, okay? And the hard bit is that when somebody is behaving so poorly, you will really struggle to give them efficacy, choice, and a say. What families do is they go out to the internet, they go out to their friends, and they get way too many cooks in the kitchen, and where they end up is with what they think is best for the person. And often that is not the case, okay? So you have to go and do your research, and then you have to figure out what they want to do, and then you have to make sure that they're not taking an easy way out, right? And when people meet me and I meet their son or their daughter, and I know that they've got zero interest in change, they just don't want to, they're in rehab avoidance, right? So they're like, I'll get a coach, right? I just call them out. I'm like, they're just being completely avoidant. They won't do the work with me or with them, so I can't help. Peace and love, but this is not for me, right? So as long as you are confident in the integrity of the person they choose, then you should go with that choice. Yeah. But don't, oh, my cousin, my uncle, my great stepfather, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, personal choice is important.
Okay. The second most asked questions topic was how to socialise without substances.
Yeah.
This was a huge one that kept coming up.
So good.
How do you juggle work, leisure and social events when everyone else is drinking / using around you, other than just cutting them off altogether and not attending?
Yeah. So I have an amazing training, and for anybody that's watching, it's called the Successful Socialising 3-Step. Okay? You don't have to DM me or email me. Just go to my YouTube and it's there for free. Okay? And if you want the PDFs, then you can send me a message and I'll send it to you. So that will teach you everything that you need to learn to prepare, be in the event, communicate during the event, and plan your life around events, right? The things not to do. You're going to have to say no to things. Okay? So if you're in early recovery and you're in your first 90 days and you've got a week where there's 3 social events, you're cancelling 2 of them, okay? Unequivocally, we're picking the safest one. We're picking the one that we can exit, right? We're picking the one that we can time box. We're picking the one that we can put something directly afterwards that we have to show up for, okay? And making sure that we've got the support to get through it. The mistake that people will make is that they will test the waters. I'm going, I'll be fine. They get through one, right? And they're like, I did it. I knew I could do it. They're white knuckling through it. And that'll be on a Thursday night. And then the Friday night, they'll go and do another one and they'll fall over. They'll trip over. I call it tripping over a twig. Okay? So it's like they jumped the massive hurdle and then they tripped over the twig on the ground. You can't put yourself, you can't put your body and your nervous system through back-to-backs. Okay? So space is important. Planning is important, picking the ones that are critically important. Real life example, person I'm working with currently, 40th. This guy is an alcoholic, serious alcoholic. He said, Conrad, I'm going to the 40th. I've made up my mind. Okay, good. Can I challenge you? Yes, you can challenge me. Have you been showing up for your wife in the last 3 years? Terribly. Okay, so you're telling me this 40th is important, right? It's the most important thing on your social calendar right now. But you've been showing up terribly for your wife for the last 3 years. Why don't you cancel the 40th and stay sober and take your wife out for dinner? Smart person, brain start ticking. Okay. All right. So our priorities are covered in the oil slick. Yeah? It's not important. And if that person is dear to you, do what I did. Send them a card. Send them a voice note. Go, hey, I can't make that, but I love you. Here's a thoughtful gift. Here's something for your kids, right? And next Saturday, let's go take a walk or a run. Yeah. So watch the training. I could sit here and talk to you about it for 3 hours. But you're going to have to learn to say no. You're going to have to pick and choose. Don't put things back to back, and make sure that you've got accountabilities with people that you love after social events. So if you've got a 40th or a 30th on a Friday night, make sure that I'm taking the kids to soccer or basketball at 8 o'clock on a Saturday and showing up for that.
I think it's also so fine to get there and decide, oh, this is too much for me. Like 100%. I think sometimes people assume that they have to, do the sober crowd proud and they have to white knuckle it. Like I went to, got invited to some PR brand thing. I went knowing that I would know no one, right? But I thought this is a time to shine. I'm going to do it. I got all dressed up. I was in Surrey Hills, walked in, everyone was in their cliques. Like I'm talking like solid cliques. There was no floaters. I got myself an non-alcoholic drink and I did one lap and not one person looked at me or said hello. And I thought, that's me done. I'm not fucking trying to talk. And sometimes it's okay just to go, you know what, not today. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. And remembering back to the times that I had to do it, I was either a lap and a leave, right? I was there for 45 minutes or I was there for an hour and a half max.
Yep.
And I would pick and choose the people that I could communicate with. And I don't want to go too deep here, but you have to understand that people are deeply insecure, right? People are not confident in themselves, right? They're drinking and they're taking drugs so they can work on that issue for themselves. It's hard to develop deep and meaningful relationships with people that are not baseless if you're drinking and taking drugs, okay? So you have to think about depth of friendship. The other thing that I'd encourage you to do also is make sure that you're being vulnerable about your current situation, okay? So when I went into parties, I would be like, I'd talk to someone and someone would come over and they'd be like, how are you? I'm like, I'm really anxious. I'm not drinking. I feel like a bit weird here. I'm not sure if I should be here. I'm really glad that you came and talked to me, what's going on for you? So opening with that vulnerability has built some of the deepest, most connected, most beautiful friendships that I have in my life. I can literally think of 4 people right now that I had that chat with and we're deeply connected,
There's a scenario written here. It's a bit long, so I'm going to summarize.
Yeah.
What would you do? Let's say I go to a rooftop party. I'm going on my own. I get there and I've been sober for 3 months and I decide I'm way too socially anxious. I want to drink right now. I've got my friend there. They're telling me not to drink, but I'm so nervous. I really want to drink. Would you recommend, but I have to stay. I don't know what it is. It's a presentation. I have to be there. Should I go for a lap around the block?
Should I walk?
Really?
Yeah, it's the number one thing, right? So when I send people that I'm working with into social events, I'm like, cool, we're going to be there for 3 hours. We're going to pick these people to talk to. We're going to have, sparkling water, non-alcoholic, sugary drink, right? And every 45 minutes, you're going to go down the escalator, you're going to take a walk of the block, you're going to get some fresh air. If you need to, pick up a phone whilst you're there. But the exit and the walk is the number one strategy. And if you want to change your state even further, we talk about breath and we also talk about, it's about getting your, sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic nervous system, right? So That's a good one, right? Or in for 4 through the nose, hold for 7, out for 8, 4 to 8 rounds, get slower each round. You can do this in a toilet cubicle, right? And I guarantee you the weirdness that you're going to feel sitting in a toilet cubicle doing 4, 7, 8 breathing is 1,000 times better than how shit you're going to feel waking up tomorrow morning knowing that you just lost 90 days of sobriety, right? We have everything that we need to calm our nervous system down right here, right? It's breath, and going outside for a walk is really, really good, right?
On that breaking the 90 days, I think we've got a couple more questions, but
Yeah.
on the breaking the 90 days, you know, a lot of us who have experienced addiction, we are all or nothing people. We are like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to go on a 10-day bender, fly up to Gold Coast, see who's there. What would be your advice for someone who does wake up after the rooftop party and they've drunk? And, you know, I don't even know how I would handle that situation, to be honest, because I am so hectically, it is 100 or 0.
Yeah.
Do you take it as an L? Do you pretend it never happened?
No. I think you've got to face it. You've got to face it with accountability, and you've got to learn something from it every single time. What did I stop doing that was working so well in the lead up? How was my preparation? When did I really make up my mind that I was going on that bender? And you'll probably find it wasn't in the moment. It was days or weeks before in an interaction or something that occurred, right? So doing that deep dive on the why is important, and having someone to talk to about that to unpack is critical. The thing that I am very passionate about is that we don't go back to 0. And that's one of the things that I really find strange about traditional recovery models, okay? We're climbing up a mountain. It's the hardest mountain we've ever climbed. And if we get up to the first base camp and then we slip back 50 meters, we're not back at 0. We're 50 meters from that base camp. So what you do the next day is critically important, all right? You've got to get up, you've got to brush it off, you've got to stop feeling sorry for yourself, you've got to reconnect, and you've got to get back into action, okay? So movement first, reflection second, and continued momentum is critically important.
Okay, last couple of questions. It feels like we might have answered this one, so if we have, we can just probably edit this out.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it word for word. Hello, my question would be how to deal with persistent comments. It's one thing to say you're not drinking and get 1 or 2 comments like, oh, come on, one won't hurt, etc., and I can brush it off. However, when someone locks in and keeps pushing all night, I find it hard to stay polite about my response when it's that relentless.
Yeah, such a good question. And in a corporate setting, right, it would be, are you trying to help or are you trying to hinder? Okay, so are you trying to help this situation or are you trying to throw a spanner in the works? In a personal situation, saying that to a person, so are you trying to support me or are you trying to sabotage me? It's a very powerful question, right? Because you know that if they're badgering you to drink, they're trying to sabotage you. So again, just put it back on them and go, are you trying to support me or are you trying to sabotage me? And then pause and wait for them to answer.
Oh my gosh, that feels so powerful.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm in trouble, even you saying that to me now. Like, that's what makes me go.
Well, I mean, it's a great question, okay? So sometimes you've got to tell people to fuck off, yeah? And having better words than that to do it in is communicating like a pro. And that's what I teach, right? There's literally a whole unit in my curriculum that's called How to Communicate Like a Pro. And some of that is telling people to fuck off without telling them to fuck off, right?
I love that. Okay, let's see. This is the last one. I don't even know if it's going to be a good last question, but oh no, this is a great last question. Are there misconceptions about addiction that frustrate you the most?
Yeah, the trauma one, right? And I know that it's deeply supported. There's been so many studies and you've got incredible people, right, who have written amazing books. But it is not always the case, okay? And you might say that what I'm going to talk about is trauma, but I think deeply about internal systems, right? And historical narratives and parts of us. So trauma in a true sense is not always the root cause of addiction, okay? When I do coaching with people, I like to do a historical timeline and we go back and we find the node, right? Where the insecurity started, the abandonment started, the resentment started, the isolation started. And we go back and we repair and we unburden that part, taking it like an internal family systems approach, okay? So it's not always the case that somebody was, sexually assaulted or they grew up in domestic violence. Like, drugs are a great escape, and that can happen to everybody from every walk of life, okay? Typically, I find that it's got more to do with relational things, self-perception, confidence, okay? Maybe it's just the type of people that I work with. But yeah, that one is a misconception, I think. And the second one is that the person is their behavior or the behavior is the person, okay? So when I say that, like, people will see their loved ones, gambling their life savings, cheating on them, just doing the worst stuff, okay? And they look at it and they go, that's the person I fell in love with. What they don't realize is that they're covered in meth or they're covered in coke or they're covered in alcohol and they're not their true selves, okay? So I think giving people the opportunity, again, to come out of the oil slick and reprove or rebuild relationships is really important. So the behavior is not the person, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Makes complete sense. I love that. Now, you have a special offer for me. Is that correct?
Oh, of course.
Do you want to say it now before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. So we've got an incredible group coaching program. And I've taken this through so many iterations, and the Circuit Breaker is a 12-month program, 90-day love it or leave it, daily accountabilities, weekly group coaching, expert series, an amazing curriculum, right? We've just built this amazing thing called the Success Roadmap. So in your first 90 days, you're getting 4 monthly check-ins, right? Momentum mapping when you start to make sure that you find momentum, 30-day check-in, 60-day check-in, 90-day check-in, reset calls. Like, all you have to do is just show up, right? If you disengage and we don't hear from you for 3 days, we will be on your ass, right? Client success manager, I've got a whole team behind me. We will literally push you up the hill, okay? It's $149 exclusive of GST a week, yeah? And I know that that's a huge investment, but what I also know is that when it's been cheaper than that, people don't pay attention. They're just like, oh, whatever, right? And I also know that if you're a busy professional, so if you have a job, if you're an electrician, if you're a nurse, if you work in FIFO, right? And you've got a problem with drugs and alcohol, you're spending twice that.
$149 is nothing, yeah.
Yeah, okay? So make that investment, and what I'm going to do, just to make it really easy, is I know the ruin we can get ourselves into. So for anybody that's watching this, for the first 3 months, you can come in and we're going to make it $97 a month, okay, for your first 3 months, which should help. And at the end of that 90 days, I guarantee you, you'll be happier, you'll feel more connected, you'll be more in control, and hopefully you've got more money in your bank account than you've invested with us. So, yeah.
Conrad, you make me feel so safe. I don't think I've ever had a guest that has made me feel this safe. I feel like I can tell you anything but there's no judgment, even though we might have had very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You're extremely intelligent, an amazing communicator, yet I feel like there's absolutely no judgment. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming in today and for coming on Soberly Speaking.
Thank you. That really, it warms my heart. And I'll just say this. I know what we're capable of, right? And I know what we're capable of down there, and I know what we're capable of up there. And I've been all the way down. And I'm very blessed, right, to be on a very good trajectory. So I'm not a person, I'm capable of judgment, but I'm not that person, right? I'm the person that likes getting people from there to there.
Me too, yeah.
And if they feel safe and they feel secure and they feel like they can trust me, then they've got a really good chance of doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.